everybody. It's Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio, a host again for the most greatest podcast, if you will, or webinar style live with all the we do this every month with all the great coaches in the industry. We call ourselves, or they call themselves, the Coalition for Automotive Management Professionals, CAMP. Good to have you all here. A lot of great stuff going to come out today. I'm positive of it. Welcome, Sarah Frazier, Vice President, AIM, Auto Ignite Management at autoignitemanagement.com. Good to see you, Sarah.
You too.
Cecil Bullitt is here, the CEO of the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence. Cecil at wearetheinstitute.com. Good to see you, man. And the website's wearetheinstitute.com. Brian Gillis is here. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Carm. How are you?
He is the Chief UNet Results Strategist at unetresults.com. Brian.Gillis, Gillis, at unetresults.com. Good to see you all. Look, can I start in a completely different way than we normally do?
It's your podcast.
No, it's not.
It's yours,
baby.
It's
yours, baby.
You invite us. It's your house. You invite us.
All right, so I have the levers. So I have all the levers here, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to find out. Let's go around the room. What are your customers saying to you? What's going on? How's the economy? How's their business? Brian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for the majority of my clients, they're doing well. Sales are up. I think there's a real big push right now to really focus on capturing cars by having great phone skills and growing your car count. So if folks are if the dollar needs to stretch a little bit further, you might just need more customers, right? So a lot of focus on building up our car count.
Got it. And the magic that happens with that, huh?
Yeah, it can make the difference. If they can't, if they're in a situation where maybe your ARO is coming down a little bit, you can counterbalance that by getting more cars through the door.
Yeah. Sarah, what do you hear?
Most of the clients I talk to, I'm working with them in the space of trying to find them talent, trying to find them technicians and advisors. So there's a lot of, well, you can find me somebody in a week, right? And well, no, I wish I could, right? But when we first get started with a client, I have a 9-page questionnaire that I have them fill out to really help us do what we do well. And the feedback I've been getting from that a lot is, it's a lot of homework, but it really made me sit down and think about, what is my culture actually look like? What are the benefits that we're offering, and kind of take a step back and really dig into some of that stuff. So that's been some good feedback on the questions that we've put together.
Well, thank you. She just made me think about the fact that doing maybe a quarterly or a semi-annual SWOT with the owner and his lead team could open their eyes as to, what are they planning on working on, what their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. Interesting, Sarah. Thank you. Cecil, what do you hear?
Our clients are doing well. We haven't seen decreases in car counts or average repair orders or profits in the last few months. There's always a little paranoia. School starting, late August, early September, and then tax time, and probably February when the time hits. But if your marketing is consistent, if you're aware where those dips are, then you can do a lot of things. And we work hard with our clients to make sure that we create consistency in the business. So I don't think that I think the outlook is good. I think there's some other weird things happening in the industry. I mean, we have this backlog of 68, 69, 70-year-olds that are trying to probably get out. And so that's maybe creating a little bit of chaos. But by and large, there's still more cars every day that need to be fixed and taken care of. So
thanks for that, Cecil. You said something really big a moment ago. You said, oh my God, it's going back to school. The holidays are coming. And I just thought of the word excuses. And, we've been around, all of us, a long enough time to know, and we just sit back and wait for it's going back to school time, I'm slow excuse. And there's a lot of shop owners that I know, they don't know what those excuses are.
Well, if you don't make them, If you don't make them, you don't have them. I mean, if we certainly should be aware that taxes happen on April 15th for the majority of the population, even though corporate's different. And if if I do a whatever you call it, delayed, I can wait till September or October. But we should know that. We should know that school starts now. By the way, school used to start in early September. Now it's starting in August, but we should be really aware of that because we watch the patterns for our business. So we can either say, oh my gosh, I always say I'm going to write this book, and it's the book is Cecil, You Don't Understand. Because, and then next is whatever your excuse is, right? Hey, you don't understand, here in Ogden, Utah, blah, blah, blah. The people are different than they are in somewhere else, or, the cars are different, or for some reason, the weather is affecting people, or the religion is affecting, whatever. And I think real people, the people that are very, very successful, if you throw everybody on a curve, right, and you say, okay, what are the top 15%? I think the top 15% that always perform amazingly, they just don't make excuses. They go, oh, I think, business slows down usually around school. We better start thinking about that, 2 months prior. In September, we better start doing or not September, excuse me, in June, we better start thinking about August and September and what we're going to do. We had a back to school, gal, one of my clients that did backpacks for the school. Last year, they did like 40. This year, they did almost 500. And the busiest time they had, their exceptional month is August and September, where August and September they used to suffer. But they did something that created community buzz that changed the game for them, that made them busier at this particular time of year and got their name out. And then we just did our marketing conference last weekend. And, part of that was we really talked hard about community and community involvement, because the better you're known in the community, the more consistent your business will be.
It's huge.
Like booking appointments. Like, I know when your car needs to come in next. If I have appointments booked with my clients, I'm going to have a more consistent business.
Totally agree with you. I have never felt and seen a lot more community stuff going on. And in fact, I know a shop owner out in California that's going to open up every Saturday morning for a few hours for people in the community to come in and learn. He's asked all of the people in his business if they would come in for 4 hours, say once or every month and a half, and teach a class to young people. It's that whole thing of incubation that it keeps coming up and rotating inside of my head. Incubation. I love the excuses thing, and I wrote down this really cool poster you need to put in your office. 0 excuses, live here.
Yeah.
Yes. I think the excuse thing too, it's not always just the big stuff. It's little things, like the part didn't come in, or, well, nobody told me, like the little things that we just have that excuse, instead of taking the mentality of like, okay, nobody filled me in, but I know now what's the solution, and having the solution forward conversation versus that, well, I didn't know, or I wasn't in the loop, or this didn't show up, or that didn't happen. That might be fact, but what are we going to do from here, versus just trying to like put it on to somebody else.
Also, if you're building a culture of exceptionalism, meaning kind of today, what if we finish that car today, even though the part didn't come in? What if we found it? What if we went to wherever and got it and got that job done today? That opens up more tomorrow, or it doesn't close up tomorrow. If we create this culture of exceptionalism where we're always going the extra effort, then we have an exceptional business, and we have exceptional people, and we have exceptional results.
Mm-hmm.
Can we be perfect, everyone? Can we be perfect?
No, there's no perfection. There's only effort and learning, And by the way, you don't want perfection, because that means you're stagnant. You want challenges. What was I watching? I was watching something last night, and they said, no pressure means no diamonds, right?
Very good.
So, you make mistakes. You're supposed to. Your people are supposed to. That's how they learn. And your company needs to make a mistake every once in a while. If you think you can get rid of all of that, you will be so cautious that you can't be exceptional. You'll be under ordinary, right?
I get
Agreed.
stuck in this where it's not that I want to be perfect, but that I want what I'm working on to be done perfectly, right? Like I want the results to be perfect, or I want this presentation to go perfectly. And what happens to me is when I get in that, I get stuck because then it turns into procrastination. The more I want something to be, it's like I'll put it off because I can't do it perfect right now, but maybe tomorrow I'll get that spark of creativity and I'll be able to do it then. And so this like need to be perfect for me turns into this, it's just not getting done until the last minute. And then it's nowhere near what I wanted it to be had I spent the time instead of putting it off and putting it off, wanting it to be perfect.
There's a human condition that when you don't know what you're doing, or when you have something to do that is uncomfortable for you, you find other things that get in your way, right? To put in your way. Like, I mean, how much time do we spend on our phones on some kind of social media? And 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we didn't have that when we used other excuses. And that happens. That's a human condition. And unless you're aware of that and you're moving forward, like good is good enough. With my clients, it's funny because if you want to be perfect, or you want your people to be perfect, you have a tendency to kind of get in the middle of everything. And I tell my clients, you have to find your level of acceptable incompetence, right? Where am I willing to say this person is not me, they're not as good as me, but this is going to be good enough for my clients, or good enough to give the results that we want. And when you figure out what your level of acceptable, come on, there we go, the brain damage, incompetence is, then it makes your life a lot easier. And you really want people in your company that can make these important decisions without you, because you've taught them how to do that, instead of, oh no, don't, because it's not perfect, or we can't be perfect.
My dad will say, well done on time is better than perfect late. That's
Yes.
a hard one for me because I still want it to be perfect. And so it's like, I've heard that, and I know there's that room for error, but there's also still that pressure, right? And wanting to do things correctly. So,
well, if you think about it, like I look at stuff I did 20 years ago, like, oh, here's a class we recorded 20 years ago. And I'm like, oh, I can't, I'm like, that was so bad. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was really good. It was forward thinking. People really loved it. A lot of people liked it, and it helped build a really great coaching company that's helped thousands of shop owners. And so you're like, I'm pretty sure that, if I'm still around 5 years from now, I'm going to be looking back at 2025 stuff, and I'm going to go, oh, I could have done that better, or whatever. If I had waited until it was perfect, I never would have coached. I wouldn't have I'd probably still be working on cars.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like what you said about the pressure and the diamonds. I love that. What I found kind of helps build that healthy type of pressure is having timelines, or having a deadline. You take away, think of any sport that you watch, take away the clock, right? There's no timeline, there's no pressure, right? So by going, hey, well, how do we do in sales today? How are we doing this week? What are we looking at for the month? By having these deadlines creates that extra pressure. And then so that's why that's a big part of my focus is having deadlines, having timelines. And then you take that perfection. I think Winston Churchill said perfection's the enemy of progress. And it's true, because if you wait for it to be perfect, you'll never make the hire, you'll never put the first foot forward. And so, all that stuff, you got to give your best effort, but it may not be perfect, but that's okay. You can mold it as you go.
I would also say that without timelines, I mean, in management, when you're managing somebody, you need to know who's responsible, what are they responsible for, what potential solutions are you going to try, and what's your timeline. And without timelines, you're actually creating anxiety, because think about football players on the field. They can't see the clock, but they know there's a clock, right? And so they're getting anxiety because they can't tell how much more time they have to get in the end zone and score and win the game. you do the same thing with your own people if you're not creating goals and timelines and what are we looking at that says we're winning this game. You create anxiety, and the more anxiety you have, the less production you have. The less you can keep the staff you have, the more likely they are to leave you because you're creating anxiety. And so in not having the information, not having the goals, not being able to look at stuff will create anxiety in most people.
One of the things that Sarah said, put things in our way. And I really thought about that a lot. And I'm wondering if we can teach our clients, or we as professionals in this great automotive repair industry, we could ask ourselves, should I be doing this? That may be a great way as a leader with your own personal goals that you got to do left, but you made a right because I haven't had my coffee. I'm not awake yet. I need my nap. Something's going on and getting in my way. So I purposely go, "Ooh, that's a really cool bauble over there. Let me take that here." And then stop and say, "Should I really be doing this?"
I think you have to do that in every aspect, especially if you want to build a team that can make the decision so that you don't have to be in the middle of everything. You really should say, should I be the one to do this thing? When your tech comes to you and says, hey boss, I can't figure this, I don't know, Mercedes out, blah, blah, blah. The great tech will go, oh, just do this and this. Well, that's not really helping, frankly. Hey, what do you think you should do? Well, hey, what have you done? Right? Asking questions to get that person to come up with their own, like, oh, I think this is the path I should take. Now you're teaching people and you're not creating people that are dependent on you. And so, I think you constantly look at that.
I like the curiosity there too. Like, what do you think we should do? Instead of, sometimes I think the tone or well, why did you do it that way gets taken, and that kind of shuts somebody down, versus that curiosity of like, well, what do you think we should do next? Or what have you, coming from it from that perspective, instead of, sometimes we get in this, well, I would have done it differently, or why did you do it that way? That can shut somebody down when we want to build them up.
You almost have to realize that there are multiple ways sometimes to get the job done. And so I learned a lesson a long time ago. My dad was teaching me how to work on cars, and we were going to do the first time we were going to do a radiator, and he crawls under the car, opens the pitcock, puts a pan down there, and then we wait for 20 minutes. And so then when I do the job, I just pull the lower hose off. I empty the radiator very, very quickly. I can do it 20 minutes faster. And my dad gets mad at me because you can't do it that way. Well, yeah. What's the result I want? I want a new radiator in the car. I want it not to leak. I want, blah, blah, blah. And I had this conversation with him. I said, I'm getting the same result that you want. And I'm doing it 20 minutes faster. So, be quiet, basically. I was kind of like that. I've been like that my whole life. But if we're looking, like, even in a management role, I'm not necessarily looking at path, right? I'm looking at destination. What is the result that I want? And if someone can do that result, and we're not doing something dumb or illegal, immoral, or unethical, then do it your way. We're getting the right result, right? And so I think being focused on result. And Carm, you mentioned like quarterly SWOT. Yeah, absolutely. You should look at your business pretty seriously once a quarter and go, are we doing the right things? Are we planning for the next quarter? What's going on? What's changing in our industry and our business? If we're not, we're in trouble, right?
I'm working on a couple of episodes on SWOTs, and to your point, Cecil, when you think about my service advisor, my team, my equipment, my industry, my community, you can do a SWOT on every one of those different categories, and that allows you to go deep. What's the strength going on in my community? What's the weaknesses? I mean, are people responding to stuff that's going on with our social? Are there enough people that I could pull into a remember the woman auto care clinics from yesteryear, everyone? Where are they? Why did they stop?
Well, and then the kids used to get a basic education in school in driver's training. They used to learn how to change a tire and how to check the oil and all of that. They're not getting that today in driver's education. So why aren't we? Lola Schmidt
Yeah.
They did this thing for Tiny Tots Automotive, and they have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and their parents playing with tools and looking at cars and learning stuff. And I'm like, why don't we do that for, I don't know, 16-year-olds too? I mean, if there's education about your automobile. If you ask even my kids, frankly, who should know how to do almost everything, basically, if they get a flat tire or if the oil light's on or something, they're going to have to call AAA or take it into a shop that they call me to ask me to recommend. It's almost amazing that we've lost that education, but it's a great opportunity for the shop to put on educational stuff for members of your community and get better known.
100%. Yep. I'm actually getting ready for my shop. We're teaming up with the Department of Motor Vehicles to create a new car driver experience so that they understand, the basics, you know, how to, change a battery, how to change a tire, how to, change your wiper blades and basic things like that, which is huge. And it's community outreach at the same time. You're helping young folks understand about their vehicle, making an impression on them. And at the same time, strengthening up the community, getting the good word out. So definitely.
Yeah. I was watching a short video from one of my clients. It was talking about when your temperature light comes on. How many people don't understand that when that temp light comes on, it may be too late. And so you got to get out of traffic. You got to get pulled over. You got to get the car off immediately. And they just don't know. And I think that would be great to say these different lights mean these different things for you. You don't like, I just bought a 2025 truck and I haven't read the manual. I'm not going to read the manual. And I'll be asking like, hey, what is that thing? My other truck, it took me, I don't know, a year to figure out how to open up the glove box. Cause I'm like, how's the glove? Oh, I don't need to get it today. I'll get it next time. And finally one day I'm in there and I'm like, I just push this button and it's like, oh, the glove box opened. Oh, that's great.
I'll bet you there's 30 new icons on that dashboard. You have no clue what they mean, but someday.
Yeah, maybe if I have a problem and if it's bad enough, then I'll go onto Google and try to figure it out or whatever.
Oh my God, that's right. Go brush up on your icons.
Yeah.
Sarah, you're out doing communication classes. I mean, I continue to hear that front of shop, back of shop, office, the communication gap. And I know what I'm saying. I believe I communicated really well to you. You received it in a completely different way.
Right, for sure. And so we just went and did some training with some shops, a bunch of advisors and managers that all work for the same company, but it's across 10 different shops. And we did training with them last year. So to come back and get to work with the same group of people was a lot of fun. And we got into some of that communication stuff. And a lot of it comes down to being very detailed in what we're saying instead of being vague and expecting people to know what our brain is thinking when we're just like, yeah, can you get that car done? Versus, can you get that Camry done by noon? So-and-so is going to be here to pick it up at 12:30. I want to be able to have time to do that, giving the why, it's almost taking that method of SMART for SMART goals and putting that towards our communication and our directions that we give to people, right? Are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they time bound? Like all of those things in what we're saying, because it's quicker to just say, hey, can you get that car done? But the 20 extra seconds it would take to explain fully in detail what your brain is thinking is going to eliminate the 5 to 10 to 20 minutes of headache you're going to be resolving it an hour later.
I'll add to that too. I strongly recommend it's written down. If it's not written down, it didn't happen.
Doesn't exist.
Like,
yep.
oh, I told the advisor it had this other noise. Well, I don't see it. If it's not written down or documented, then quite frankly, it didn't happen. And that's a great way to make sure it's crystal clear.
And other noise.
And that can get you in trouble with your client because, the service advisor is saying, I told the client about this potential problem, and the car was just here, and 2 weeks later it blows up, but it's not documented. And so it never happened. You didn't tell them. They don't remember it. And, I've been, married 43 years now, and communication is still an issue, right? And it will be your biggest challenge is to communicate clearly with people. And if we create systems and processes where communication happens, like I would tell you that the average service advisor probably wastes somewhere between 2 and 3 hours a day going out to the shop to talk to a tech, as opposed to having a good communication system that's a written communication system between the tech and the service advisor, so that I don't have to go have those conversations.
Right.
And because they waste that time, then they don't have time to take care of the customers as well as we'd like, or to make sure that the parts are here, or any of a myriad of other mistakes that happen because of poor communication. And anytime, like I was just in a different class that's not automotive, and they were using a bunch of acronyms, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm not XYZ. This is not my field. And so I don't know when you're saying XYZ, and the class was literally full of a bunch of people that weren't in that industry. I don't know what you mean. So I need you to, tell me what that is.
Good point.
Well, if you do the SSD and the ACTD, then blah, blah, blah. And
you asked the best questions because there were 50 other people that thought you were a hero because you said, slow down, explain this stuff to me. And it goes back to this whole initiative that I have on this language shift in the industry, right? And the deal is, well, we got to get an ADAS calibration on there. Well, okay, Cecil, I trust you. You can do that. And they wonder what the hell is an ADAS? And we're not talking about OE specs for calibrations so that all of these great systems that keep your vehicle on the road and paced out in cruise. Oh, you're speaking my language now all of a sudden.
And if you take the 2 minutes or 30 seconds to have the conversation, so what is an ADAS calibration worth? Let's see, that's an ADAS calibration. That's 3 words, 5 words. And so that's worth $50, right? But if you go in and say, here's why we have to do this, here's what happens when you don't do this correctly, here's the different things that we have to do, and you spend that 30 seconds, you just created a $150, $2 value for the client. You're always creating value. You should be, right?
It's the $99 alignment versus the $399 alignment. And with a guy down the road says he'll do this for $89, before that individual leaves, and I've actually done this on recent shows, and I want Keith Perkins to give me some of his beautiful little graphical charts that he has to show the consumer. If it's off 1 degree here at 10,000 feet, the radar's looking down there. The radar's going to be looking at the wrong place. You just don't want this to happen. In fact, it's a requirement from your vehicle manufacturer. Oh, all right, I'm still going to go down to the guy at the end of the road. And maybe he'll turn around 4 blocks later as he thought about your intelligent description. You're not selling this individual. You're saying it's for all the right reasons that this is what it is. And I won't do the alignment. I will not make these critical changes to your vehicle if we don't do it complete.
That's right.
Because also nobody in our industry really fully understands the liability that you are creating for yourself and your business.
Absolutely.
If that causes an accident or whatever, and you're the one that put your hands on it and didn't do it quite all the way or correctly, it's going to come back to you. And as our society changes and we keep, it becomes more and more litigious, and we become less responsible for ourselves, and society's more responsible for what happens to the people around us. It just becomes worse and worse. And I mean, the last few years, we've actually had a couple of shop owners and a couple of service advisors thrown in jail and fined huge amounts because they didn't do the job completely and correctly. And it created a potential for an issue. Who knows if the accident happened because of that, but that's what it got blamed on, and that's what happened, right?
Wow.
And I don't think, again, I think, oh my God, you have these people that are doing this $89 alignment, and frankly, they've got $1 million worth of liability there, and they have no clue that they have that liability, because then you wouldn't have an $89 alignment.
Brian, communication, working hard at that?
Always. It's key. I mean, as especially the role of the front counter individuals, right? So that's their key, communicating with the customer, communicating with the technicians, communicating with the vendors, communicating with management. Maybe this guy, that's the top tool that service advisors need to use. You got to be great communicators, and you got to, like Cecil said earlier, he's talking about being married and so forth. There's a lot of lessons to be taken from that. One, you have to be a great listener. You have to listen. That's a big part of communication that a lot of people fail on, actually. And it starts the moment that you take in that very first phone call, to the time that customer comes in the door, and how you capture the information that they're sharing and ask the right questions to make the technician's job as easy as possible in effort to pinpoint the concern the customer has. So
if I brought my wife in the studio right now, Cecil, and I said, "Hey, Ann, how are we communicating after 48 years?" And she says, "Difficultly," because, and I don't know if we were doing it. I don't remember, but it's the paradigm. She'll say something to me, and in my world and in my think, I heard what she said and related it to all the synopsis and the connections that I have. She was saying something completely different. And what I have to stop and think about, and I think as an industry and as leaders, we may have to ask a few clarifying questions.
There's a great question to add into your vocabulary, into your thing, and that is, what did you hear me say?
Yeah.
Right? So I know what I said, and in my mind, I absolutely understand that. But what did you hear? Because it's all filters, right? Everything's filters. My experience, my age, what I've gone through, how my mom and dad treated me, how I was raised, etc. And frankly, that my wife and I almost got divorced somewhere close to 8 years in, and it was all when we went to therapy. Best money, best $17,000 I ever spent. It was because my wife, when I was upset, which was normal for me, I'm a pretty high energy, like I'm not happy with the world most of the time kind of guy, although I believe I'm an optimist. My wife was like, "Oh, it must be my fault." It was just a difference in the way we were raised. And, now if I'm upset, my wife is like, "What are you upset about?" Oh, somebody pissed me off at work. No worries. I'll be over this in, 15 minutes. I'll be calmed down. But if you don't ever assume that whoever you told, even if you were as clear as you think you could be, that they got the message. Yeah. What did you hear me say? Right.
In Sarah's case, when she says, "Hey, could you fix, when are you going to finish that car?" And she says, "What did you hear?" And he's going to say, "When am I going to finish the Ford?" And she meant the Camry. So obviously in his world, he was just touching that vehicle, working on it, thinking about it. And that's what he thought you were saying.
So I bought this Ford truck, and they found the one I wanted in Denver, and we're in Utah. So 500 miles. And so they're going to go get it and drive it here so I can have this truck. Right. And so I go in 3 days later, it's supposed to be here. And the sales guy goes, "Hey, Cecil, you're going to be really upset." I'm like, "Why?" They brought the wrong truck. Okay. So when you're like, "Oh, I want you to fix this." I've even seen, "Hey, I want you to fix the blue Honda." And they brought the wrong blue Honda in, and now they're in the middle of the job. They've torn the engine apart. They're, blah, blah, blah. And it's not even the Honda that I wanted, right? You need to be, sometimes it's down to here's the license number, here's the VIN number. Let me take you to the car and point the car out,
It's just like doctoring.
Yeah.
I had some minor eye surgery 3 weeks ago. They took a magic marker, a big Sharpie, and they put an X over this thing. "We're putting an X over your right eye. Is this the right eye?" 4 times it happened. When I got there, when I got prepped, when I went into the operating room, when I was done. That's process. That's systems.
Yeah. And you think, "Oh, that might be overkill, but I don't want them operating on the wrong eye." You know what I'm saying?
No,
that's right.
Something else that
happened.
So you said removing what arm?
Yeah.
You said they told you, "Cecil, you're going to be really upset," which to me, they just gave you permission to be upset. Like they just upfront gave you permission to be mad. Like, why would you say that to somebody?
Yeah, but if you were to come to this particular dealership, and probably all their dealerships, they own 30 some, you would notice that their communication is really piss poor. It's just not good. And everybody's miserable. You walk into their service department, there are 7 people sitting there that look like they had a poop sandwich, just 5 minutes ago. I asked the manager, I'm like, dude, your people are so like, they're just angry right from the start. And he goes, yeah, we know. That's it. Okay, that's our level of incompetence we're willing to accept. I'm like, holy crap. Could you imagine how much better if you said, hey, we've had a delay, but you know what? We're going to take care of it. It's going to be fine. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, great. Instead, it's like, oh, now you can rant and rave and scream and yell if that's what you want to do. Not, yeah. Yeah.
It's
Really
it's
poor
That's
communication.
great, great point. You would have not had to know they got you the wrong vehicle.
Yeah. We had a delay. Our guy couldn't get back. Whatever,
You would have never known.
yeah.
Those
And
those communications. Mhm.
all I did was do this. Just like, okay, next. And I didn't even talk to him. I just got in my car and got in my other truck and drove away. I was like, okay, whatever. Right. Call me when it's here.
Yeah, I was going to say those communications, unlike your dealership over there, they should be process and systems driven. It's
Yeah.
not like each time that this happens, we're going to figure out a different way to go about it. It's like, this is how we answer the phone. This is how we dispatch a ticket. This is the information that's on there. This is how we, receive information from each other back and forth, and how we order parts. So it takes all that confusion out of there, and then you get your great clear communications in a timely manner as well.
So in that quarterly SWOT analysis, I'm also swatting my communication, right? I mean, what are our systems and processes achieving for us? And if they're not achieving the right result, what do I have to do to change that?
Change
right?
it.
If I could save, 2 hours of my service advisor's time every single day because we cleared up that communication, what could my productivity be? What could that do to my financials, my bottom line? And what would it make for happier employees and happier customers, right? These are things I should be thinking about as a shop owner, and not, oh my gosh, I've got to figure out this. I've got a couple shop owners right now. They got some problem children in their shop, which, by the way, if you have a shop, eventually you're going to have some problem children. I mean cars. And they're the ones working on these cars, and they're not figuring out how to really run their business better, or maybe how to communicate better in the beginning so that we don't get the problem children in our business, or whatever. We keep putting fires out, and our excuse is, well, we have these fires, but we don't solve the problems, right? We don't go to the root and create the root cause, because if you have the root cause fixed, then you don't have the problems, or you have a lot lesser of them.
Let me ask you a question, all of you, as you work with your clients. Is leadership one of the biggest keys to getting them to be at the top of their game?
I would say it's
I
a
think-
big piece of it.
Yeah, I think knowledge of the business is probably one of the big lacking. Like, what really makes my business successful, and how do I do that, is probably really lacking. And of course, leadership, it's kind of the function of this is who we are, and getting your people invested and involved in your company, excited about what you do and who you are, and helping set goals with them. But management too is like management is, in our industry, and probably in almost all small business industries, is really probably, I don't know, 50-60% instead of 95. And you need to have management skills, because once we've decided who we want to be and what the numbers should be and what the goals ought to be, now we have to figure out how to get that done. And that's management function, not leadership function.
Right.
So, and you can't even go there if you don't understand how your business makes a profit, and why you may or may not be making the profit you need. I mean, I would tell everybody here, would tell you, all the coaches would say, we walk in and we go, I like Marcus Lemonis. He was doing that thing for a long time, and he goes in and he goes, he's restaurants, and he goes, well, what's the cost of that plate? and nobody knows. Like, there's a steak and a potato and a side and whatever. And what's it cost you to make it? And nobody has any clue. Well, how did you set your pricing? Well, we just kind of thought maybe, we should be here because the Sizzler down the street is there, or this down the street is there.
Yeah.
And it's epidemic in business, and certainly in our business. So for me, first understanding how you're profitable or not, and what equates to that. Now I need a leader that says we can get this done and gets everybody excited. Then I need a manager that can go, here's how we do it, right?
Right.
Or help the individuals in my company figure out how to get it done themselves so they can go do it and have ownership. And so there's that whole, like, it's not one thing, it's 3 things or 5 things.
Yeah, I look at 6 big things, leadership being one of them, financials, like Cecil was explaining, how much did it cost for that plate of food you're serving, and are you charging the right amount? The people, process, leadership, management, financials, daily operations, are the big ones in my opinion, along with leadership. So
And probably marketing, you're probably looking at that too.
marketing,
Like,
yeah,
what's my consistency of car count? What kind
right.
of clients am I bringing in? Are they buying? Are they not buying?
That's
You know,
right. You got to
so,
measure that deal. But yeah, marketing, of course. Yeah, those are to me, the top 6 things you want to focus on.
and the funny thing
Market.
about that for me is I believe that if you can get a handle on those 6 things,
Hmm.
you probably are going to have a very successful business. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's overly complicated. I think it's pretty simple when you understand those things.
Hmm. Hmm.
I love your analogy to Marcus Lemonis, Cecil, and I always loved that show. And as you were explaining, and I was listening to, because this happens to me all the time, I'm so engrossed in what all my guests say, and I thought of do the math,
Hmm.
and there's nothing inside of this automotive. Forget the restaurant business, our business. How do we get to our labor rate? What is our effective this? What is our everything? I don't care how you do it. You have don't open a shop, or if you're a struggling owner and hate math, get someone to do it for you.
Well, it's not,
Write
it's
a
not
budget.
or learn it. To your
Yeah.
point, it's not hard when someone can teach you how to take that calculator or spreadsheet and figure it out, because most coaches I know, they got these templates. You put in a few numbers, bam, there it is.
Write a budget.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Get a
But what?
pencil,
A
an
budget? What?
eraser,
Yeah.
Do the math.
adjust.
Don't
You're
know where.
struggling, do the math. We'll find it. We'll find
there's all-
where.
There's so much free content online. Don't get me wrong. I certainly want to get paid, but go to our YouTube channel and look at how to increase your profit. 5 steps to increasing your profit. Look at, we have a class, all of the numbers you need to know uh, uh, in automotive or something. And so you go in and okay, how do I figure out my effective labor rate? Oh, here's how I do that. How do I figure out my parts margin? Oh, here's how I do that. How do I figure out my productivity? Oh, here's how I do that. It's again, it's if you're math adverse, maybe it's a little more difficult, but there are so many different systems. And then of course today, if you have a point of sale, if you have a shop management system, they give you, I don't know, 85% of what you need, right?
Mhm.
So and the rest is in your profit and loss if you're doing a decent P&L.
Yeah.
Can
And
I afford to pay this person this much of pay? Well, let's do the math. Let's find out. Let's crunch some numbers and let's just find out if we can afford this person.
Yeah, in
So
my pay plans, I actually will show that for the service advisor, when they do this and I pay them this is the percentage of sales I'm actually paying out. So I know exactly that I fit within the window that I need to fit. And then I make adjustments on those pay plans to make sure that I fit within the window and that I can pay that person more money when they are more successful, right? Which is ultimately
absolutely.
what everybody wants, the opportunity to do better.
percent of sales, baby. You got to learn what that means and how it works.
Yeah. For everything, for most what we do, right?
Yeah. Hey, this was great. Thank you. It's the September camp, the Coalition of Automotive Management Professionals. Thank you so much, Cecil Billard, CEO of the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence. Sarah Frazier was here. Thanks. These are all her topics. Great topics. Thank you so much. AIM, AIM, Auto Ignite Management at autoignitemanagement.com. Sarah's a recruiter with her dad, Bill.
I'm a
And Brian
matchmaker. I don't know
Gillis.
how I feel about the recruiter word.
Okay.
Matchmaker. I like that.
Matchmaker.
Never mind. Brian Gillis, Chief UNet Results Strategist from unetresults.com. Brian.Gillis at unetresults.com. Thank you all so much. Great episode. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Carm.
you.
Good to see you, Cecil, Sarah.